place in 20 days. Yesterday we talked about creating a plan and having that plan put into place so you can be effective over the course of your year, whenever that year happens to begin. Today I want to talk a little bit about prospect clearing. Once you have your plan in place and you know what you need to do and you have a strategy for how to do it, the next thing is figuring out who those prospects might be that will be new donors. And part of your prospect search will begin with what are the categories that you need to raise donors for. So if you have major donors, if you have annual giving donors, if you have people that are giving to your endowment or your planned giving, who are those individuals? Then the two things that I suggest starting with are prospect clearing with your board of directors. You can have a list, and this is what I used to do with some of the boards I worked with when I was a professional development director. I would have a list that had 10 lines on it, and each line had name and business. That way, if you ask an individual that also owns a business, you're not double asking. And then I would give those out at a board meeting, and I would say, I would really like for everyone to sit down and think about 10 individuals or 10 businesses in the community that you feel like would support X, Y, or Z, whether it was our endowment or our planned giving or our annual campaign or a particular program or project or a capital campaign, whatever donor base it is that you're focusing on. And then I, as a development person, would take those lists back and I would do prospect clearing. So that's where I would go through and look at the lists and see, oh, this person is already giving, so we don't need to ask them again. Or these two people have the same name on their list, which one might be better to make the ask, or to go with me to make the ask, or to open the door for me. So then when you get all your prospects cleared, you send that list back to the individual that was on your board, and you explain to them why this person was marked off, or why this person is going to be going to another board member, or you have a conversation with them about some of those things. And then if you're a development person that is either new or that thinks it would be beneficial to take a board member with you on an ask, then you can have the conversation about, would you be willing to open the door for me to make this ask? Would you be willing to make a call on my behalf or send an email? Would you be willing to go with me if we're able to get a meeting set up? That way that conversation can be more natural and be a little bit more productive the first time that you go. Leah's barking at a truck that's on the street, so that's just background noise at this point. That's where I would start. The next thing that I would do is I would sit down and work with, depending on the size of your organization, either your executive staff, if you have managers, program managers, departmental managers, people in the community who have good relationships with your program or your project that they're over, people they've interacted with in the community either as vendors or maybe past participants, people that have a passion for what you do, maybe they're collaborating or partnering with you in some other way. So I would sit down with those people and have them do the same process. Who do you feel like might be a good prospect to help support X, Y, or Z, whatever it is you're trying to raise money for, whoever you're trying to increase donor bases for, and then go through that same process. You'd be surprised the people in the community who aren't your development staff who can open doors for you, who have the relationships with those individuals that will allow you to sit down, build a relationship, eventually make an ask and ask someone to support what you're doing. And that is how you're going to create lasting donors. You don't want just donors that are going to give you this year, and so you can say, ooh, I got 500 new donors this year, and then none of them give again because they don't have a relationship and they don't have a reason and they don't have a connection to your organization. It takes longer to build a relationship like that and get new donors, but those donors last longer. Some of them become lifetime donors, as opposed to the ones that you have to get new every single year because you didn't acquire those donors the right way or the best way. So that would be my next step for you, is now that you have your plan in place and you know what you want to do and what you want to accomplish, sit down and start figuring out who are those targeted individuals that you're going to want to talk to and how are you going to get in front of them. So one thing is saying who they are, and the next piece is, this person identified them as a prospect, let me talk to them about what's the best way to get in front of this person. I do not recommend sending out letters that are cold letters when you haven't had a relationship with an individual. So that would not be my recommendation for how you make this ask. You're not going to get a list of 150 new potential donors from your board members and then send them all letters. That's not how I'm suggesting that you do this. This is individual meetings, relationship building, and then asking for someone to support what it is that you're doing and why. So that's tip 2, and I hope that you are working on your plans from tip 1 and creating a plan that you can work with to achieve your goals and objectives for increasing your donor base. Check back in with us tomorrow for day 3.